For most of history, grey hair has been seen as a one-way road. You notice a few silver strands, then more, and they almost never go back. Think of famous people who turned grey. Can you remember any of them naturally regaining their original colour? Biology seemed to back this up. Each follicle has a tiny pigment seed bank of melanocyte stem cells. With age and stress, that bank shrinks. Once it is effectively empty, that follicle cannot make enough melanin, so new hairs grow in grey or white and are assumed to stay that way. However, a recent study brought a surprise. A team at Columbia decided to follow what happens to a grey hair strand inch by inch, and to see whether anything can change after that first grey segment appears. They treated each hair as a physical timeline. Scalp hair grows at a fairly steady rate, so every point along a strand maps to a specific week in the recent past. The tip is months ago, the root is now. By scanning the full length of each hair, they built detailed pigmentation maps. Each strand became a graph of how that follicle's pigment changed over time. Some hairs did follow the classic pattern, dark, then grey, and stayed grey. But others turned grey for a segment and then became darker again, all along the same strand. The only way to get that pattern is if the same follicle first lost pigment and then restarted it while the hair was still growing. So at least in some human follicles, greying is not permanent and pigment can come back. To explain these results, the researchers suggest a different way of thinking about greying. Each follicle carries an internal load made up of aging plus stress. When that load crosses a certain threshold, pigment drops and the hair growing in that period comes out grey. If the follicle is far beyond the threshold, that greying is likely locked in. But if it is only just over the line, lowering stress or improving the local environment can pull the load back down. That is when you see a grey segment followed by a darker one on the same hair, a follicle stepping back from the edge and restarting pigment. The good news is that at least part of greying behaves like a dynamic process. For a while, in some follicles, it is actually reversible.